agak munasabah. Semua negara yang melaksanakan GST itu termasuk Singapura atau Canada atau New Zealand itu dikira pendapatan minima rakyat itu agak munasabah untuk hidup. Sekarang ini masih terlalu ramai, 130,000 kemiskinan tegar, B40 yang ramai, jadi tidak boleh dipertimbangkan buat masa sekarang.
He said revenue collection and strict enforcement to avoid tax evasion was sufficient as an alternative to reintroducing the GST. Anwar added that the capital gains tax and luxury goods tax that the government plans to introduce is more than enough for the country to gain extra income. The Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim also gave his assurance that the tender process for flood mitigation projects in critical flooding areas will be fast-tracked. Anwar, who is also Finance Minister, said these projects are expected to be completed by June.
Memang di tender semula. Memang diperkenalkan sistem tender terhad dan saya minta fast track sebab banjir. Jadi belum ada award, ya. Daripada keputusan yang saya cek semalam untuk Sungai Golok, untuk Terengganu, untuk Kedah, untuk semua termasuk Johor, dan Johor kita tambah jadi 2, itu semua disegerakan melalui fast track tender. Jadi Kementerian tahu kalau kita gunakan proses tender biasa tak boleh dalam Jun Julai. Sebab itu saya minta mereka buat fast track supaya dapat diselesaikan bulan Jun dan take off bulan Julai. Jadi jawapan saya, belum ada kelulusan kepada mana-mana syarikat.
Nearly 80% of the labour shortage in the plantation industry has been resolved, says Deputy Prime Minister Dato Sri Fadillah Yusof. However, he says the remaining challenge was to ensure there are enough migrant workers for certain states such as Sarawak, which does not accept workers from Bangladesh.
Fadillah, who is also the Plantation and Commodities Minister, says the government is working to hire more Indonesian workers for Sarawak. As for application approvals to solve the labour shortage in oil palm plantations, he said it was almost 100% complete. In January, Fadillah revealed the shortage of 63,000 foreign workers in the oil palm sector had affected yield and saw Malaysia lose out on 20 billion ringgit in revenue last year. As a result, the Cabinet agreed to facilitate the intake of foreign workers and extend the labour recalibration programme until the end of 2023.
Meanwhile, the government is working on revamping the skilled worker visa application process system and cutting any red tape surrounding it. Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli says the application process could be much faster within the next few months. At a meeting with Pemuda, the Special Task Force to facilitate business, a more streamlined and speedier processing system was one of the top requests by industries facing a shortage of workers. This is because they said the recruitment of foreign workers in Malaysia was often a tedious process. Rafizi said the government aimed to introduce a more simplified and shorter expatriate permit application in 3 months' time. He said this would address the top key concerns of investors and industries, as the current process could take up to 6 months, which impacts their manpower planning. The low-value goods LVG tax, originally planned to come into effect on April 1st, has been delayed indefinitely. The deferment was announced through the Royal Malaysian Customs Department website, though a reason was not cited. The legislations related to LVG tax were already in force since January 1st, but the effective date for charging and levying the tax was slated for April 1st. The LVG tax will impose a 10% sales duty on goods valued under 500 ringgit imported from overseas, excluding delivery charges, with exemptions to this new levy limited to liquor, smoking and tobacco products including vapes. Both local and foreign sellers of imported low-value goods with sales exceeding a total of 500,000 ringgit within 12 months would also need to acquire the registered seller status under the legislation to start collecting the sales tax. The LVG tax was announced on August 1st last year, following a proposed amendment to the Sales Tax Act 2018 to tax LVG sales through the Sales Tax Amendment Bill 2022. We will go for a quick break. Stay tuned for more.
Macam mana nak berniaga kalau sering berdepan gangguan internet dan ancaman cyber? Dengan penyelesaian Maxis Business, anda pasti boleh. Berniaga di mana saja bila-bila masa dengan panggilan dan data tanpa had walau anda berada di luar pejabat. Anda tidak perlu risau lagi dengan perlindungan cyber yang hebat. Miliki pelan Maxis Business Postpaid dan Fiber hari ini.
Jangan lupa Yakult ni. Jom minum Yakult setiap hari. Usus mantap, kuat lagi immunity. Yakult, Yakult.
Gajinya membawa kepuasan tak terhingga. Nikmati kepuasan hari ini. Gajinya puas. Satu tempat yang anda perlukan untuk pelbagai anugerah.
You're capable of anything.
Stream bintang terhebat. Saksikan calon-calon anugerah paling berprestij. Seleksi filem-filem luar biasa. Stream semuanya di satu tempat. Menjelang anugerah.
Mantap.
Oscars Stream on Demand.
Where movie lovers unite.
Inilah destinasi untuk pelbagai anugerah. Stream semuanya di satu tempat, hanya di Astro. Astro mengucapkan tahniah kepada Tan Sri Michelle Yeoh di atas penganugerahan pelakon wanita terbaik di 95th Oscars.
Welcome back. While companies have begun to offer hybrid working arrangements for more flexibility, many working parents still find it difficult to balance work and family. Clarence Zhang of Malaysia Benefits discusses how company policies can better support working parents.
Employed parents actually face a number and higher exposure, right, from more stress level, from their family, from the workplace compared to non-parents. And as a result, right, the recovery period is actually lesser based on the survey that we actually did. Okay, employed parents, they actually want more work-life balance. Okay, they feel that the increased responsibility both at work and at place, right, actually affect what they are currently having right now. So in that sense, right, they actually affect a little bit of the work performance. And of course, the employed parents that we interviewed, right, they found that they're actually very worn out at the end of the day. And they found that working from home, even though it's more interesting, I can see the kids more. But actually, in fact, they sometimes they actually place the kids more. They actually have more issues with that. So we do hear about companies doing that. If you want to work from home, they'll get lesser pay. So this is one of the so-called not so good thing about doing hybrid. And of course, some of the parents that were working from home, they're actually putting in the same amount of effort, same amount of work time, but yet they're actually reducing their benefits and of course some in their salary. And even in some cases, right, instead of promotion, right, they actually missed out on promotion. They're actually being demoted because you said that you want to be working hybrid. So these are some of the issues that they might face for working hybrid.
Clarence said working parents can benefit from a tailored benefit scheme to help ease their work and personal lives.
Different employees have different type of needs. Not all employees, for example, they want insurance coverage, which they themselves might already be covered by their own insurance policy. So they might want to give flexible benefits, right, that they can enjoy for other things.
On to the international front, China will reopen its borders to foreign tourists for the first time since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. The country will restore the issuance of all categories of visas from Wednesday, the final removal of cross-border control measures after authorities declared victory over the virus last month.
The boost to the tourism sector is expected to rekindle a $17 trillion economy that suffered one of its slowest growth rates last year. Areas in China that required no visas prior to the pandemic will revert back to visa-free entry. The Foreign Ministry said people holding visas that were issued before March 2020 and still within their validity dates will also be able to enter China. China abandoned its zero-COVID policies in December and cancelled quarantine requirements for incoming travellers in January. The updated policy will also allow the resumption of visa-free travel for those coming in via cruise ships to Shanghai, along with tourist groups from Hong Kong, Macau and other ASEAN countries.
In other news, the leaders of the US, Australia and Britain unveiled details of a plan to create a new fleet of nuclear-powered submarines, a major step to counter China's military build-up in the Indo-Pacific region. Under the deal, Australia is to get its first nuclear-powered submarines, allowing the country to become only the 7th in the world with such military technology.
The submarine agreement is part of what is known as the AUKUS Pact, an acronym for Australia, the UK and the US, a security agreement that was announced in 2021 by the three countries and seen as a counterweight to China's growing military influence in the region. Under the first phase of the deal, Australia will buy 3 US nuclear-powered submarines by the early 2030s and has an option to buy 2 additional vessels if required. The project is estimated to cost $245 billion by 2055. Beijing has made no secret of its opposition to AUKUS and said the deal could hurt peace and stability. But US President Joe Biden said the deal was aimed at bolstering peace in the region. Australia has also stressed that though their new submarines will be nuclear-powered, it does not mean that they will be carrying nuclear warheads.
With a general election around the corner, Thai politicians have begun to shine the spotlight on air pollution as the country chokes on bad air. Nearly 200,000 people have sought medical treatment or been hospitalized in Thailand this week alone due to hazardous air pollution.
Residents in various parts of Thailand have been choking on bad air for months. More than 1.3 million people have fallen sick since the start of the year as a result of air pollution, caused by a dangerous mix of industrial emissions, agricultural burning and vehicle fumes. Thailand's Democrat Party's deputy leader vowed to push for the Clean Air Act, which would establish air pollution standards and penalize individuals and companies that irresponsibly cause air pollution with a dust tax. The party also plans to designate Bangkok as a low-emission zone, which would be piloted in 16 districts of Inner Bangkok. A general election is expected to take place in May. However, the date has yet to be announced.
Indonesia's parliament will ensure there is no vacuum of power in the country despite a controversial court ruling to delay the 2024 presidential and general elections. Deputy House Speaker Lodwig F. Paulus emphasized that the constitution makes it clear that elections must be held every 5 years. He, however, did not elaborate on the steps Parliament would take to ensure this. The March 2nd court decision ordered for the Election Commission, better known as the KPU, to stop all poll preparations. This will push the polls back to 2025 at the earliest. The KPU has appealed the ruling last week and has said it would proceed with poll preparations as planned, though it is not clear when a decision on the appeal will be made. The recent incident has added fuel to a lingering debate in the third largest democracy on whether President Joko Widodo should be allowed to stay in power longer, despite him reaching the 2-term limit next year. That wraps up Awani Tonight. I'm Fana Sheikh. Thank you for watching.